a closer knit family to try to prevent the meeting, but things are going well, and I'll keep you all posted on, you know, any of the upcoming things. They're gonna have like a little Christmas get together, so you'll be getting an email invite for that. It'll be you plus one, so you'll be able to attend that. And then I just left the Davis Arts Council meeting, and it was well. I don't have any news from them. I'm kind of waiting on things for us, so.
They've got the pages.
Yeah, the small stage series.
Small stage.
Yeah, so that will be tomorrow. So I'll announce that in the general meeting. That's all for me.
Very good. That's a good update, though. Okay,
I met at the Grant Commission on Monday, which is going through with the new members. They're going through bylaws and the application process and scoring and grading and all that, so they're getting trained. And we have until the 3rd of January to get grant applications in, so open now. They didn't have very many.
that's usually the case. It starts out real slow, and then that last week. Just kind of take hold there. Yeah, that's how everybody is. Anybody else?
Just the Parks and Rec Commission met since our last meeting, and they had a really good discussion about what we talked about with sportsmanship. Brought up some other great ideas.
Did you role play?
We talked about my competitive sports experience. It's a league called Church Ball.
We can't go there.
There's some good sportsmanship to take from that, and some good examples of that examples.
In the church ball? Good what?
Yeah.
It was good when it was over.
Good discussion.
I've been hurt more in church ball than I did ever competitive ball.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? All right, well, let's just go ahead and keep going then on our amendments to the budget. So Tracy, if you want to take over and run the show.
Sure.
Let me pull this up, Tracy. I did have a question for you. It's related to maybe a future budget, but from what I understood from the information that we got from Steve about water usage this year, that it was pretty much the same as last year. Is that right, Steve? But much decreased from 2020, but pretty stable from 2020 to 22.
No, there was even a decrease over the 21 year, but October was very similar to the number in October of 2020 because of warmer weather.
Okay. I was just curious what we thought as an idea of where we think the projections on the revenues would be. I mean, I know you don't have the numbers. I just was. Now that we have the water usage, we probably have an idea. But just something I was thinking of.
I could probably send some of that out. It's not completed yet, but the water revenues were down. I've been working on a different section of the financials for the last couple of days, so I don't remember the exact numbers, but the revenue's down, and it's down pretty significantly, you know, because of all that conservation. Now, we did the rate increase to help, you know, ease some of the pain on that, but we don't really see the effect of that too much because we did the rate increase in July, but then everybody conserved even more July, August, September this last summer. So until, you know, later in the fall, it was kind of used up a little bit. So, but yeah, it was down quite a bit.
So Zach, on that, would you like Council Mayor Russell Parsley, do you want a water year projection of revenues or just project like a year end? How would you like to see that numbers that make sense?
Do you have any preference?
You probably calculate it monthly, don't you?
Water revenue?
Yeah, you kind of
You
do.
look at it every month.
That'd be fine with me, just the way you project it.
Whatever's easy to say. I just kind of wanted to see a snapshot of so I can start thinking about what we might be aiming for.
Well, it'd be nice to know the money, I shouldn't say that, the amount of water we have. You know, is Andy Adams and Hobbs at this point, are they dry? Are they at 50%? You know, I mean, I realize we're starting to fill them up, and, you know, because we've stopped everything, but it'd be nice to know how much we have to fill. You know, I mean, we get one big snowstorm and we all shot parade, but I also know that doesn't, you know, doesn't cut it.
I think the
It's a
average,
good start.
the average from what I'm heard is what we're 40% right now.
Statewide, we're about.
Statewide, we're about 40.
I can get you specifics on those. other
Well,
resolutions.
it doesn't have to be specific, but, you know, just to know kind of what we need in order to get back to normal. I mean, it's, you know, it's gonna be a road, a long one. It's not gonna happen in 1 year. I mean, you know, and that's gonna create us looking at different things.
I suspect tonight, based on some of the letters that we received, that we'll hear from, if they decide to come, a few people will come and comment on the conservation and how their yard is now burned up and things like that, because that was some of the things that were addressed in the comment letters that we received on the debt issuance question that was out there, so. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely concern out there for people's landscaping and farms and gardens and all that kind of stuff. Anyway.
I think with the revenue projections, it'd be helpful to have a comparison to previous years. It'd be helpful to me to say, you know what, we were able to do this type of budget last year with these revenues and how that compares to current.
Due to some, and we had to implement a new accounting standard related to leases, and we have 10 or 11 cell phone tower leases, and so it's kind of delayed. I hoped that by this meeting we would have our financial statements all done, and now we're crossing our fingers that we'll get it done by the middle of December, which we should, because it's due the end of December to the state. But so that's the reason I haven't brought the full financial statements forward to you yet, but we could address that as well during that. Most of that analysis I've done as far as comparing month to month and looking at the flow of the revenues over those months over multiple years, so that we can, you know, see how we're doing. But yeah, we can tidy that up, especially now that the season's, you know, the water season's over.
Thank you.
As far as these amendments go, the two, as you look through them, I threw all the little things in as well while we were doing it, but you may have noticed two main amendments. One for 2700 West, there's additional funding that's needed on that for street, water, sewer, storm, and street lighting. And if I don't explain it all real well, then Steve will jump in with me. But to start at the top, and I'm actually not real familiar with this project, but there's some work that needed to be done around it in the amphitheater for curb gutter and pedestal installations, so lighting. It's $47,000, and that funding's coming out of our general fund balance to accomplish that project. And then we needed to recognize some revenue that we received from the DATC for the fire academy that we just hadn't, you know, we don't usually put that in the budget until we actually get it, and then we cover costs of putting on the academy when that happens. So those two things in the general fund. So, I mean, the reality of that, and, you know, knock on wood, that's actually pretty small for this far into the year for the general fund to only, you know, have to do that kind of an adjustment. In the Metro Fund, they had some grant funding that didn't materialize, so that you see a reduction. There was kind of an increase and a reduction, ended up in an overall reduction in their funds so far this year. The $1,450,000, as Alex and I reviewed the numbers of where to get the additional funding we needed to cover that project, our Proposition 1 fund had a reserve of a little over 1.6, and that money can be used for transportation projects. So we made the determination that we would propose to pull the funding from that fund to help with that project. The $402,396,000, this was talked about a while back. Davis School District is doing the Teen Resource Center, and there was a property purchase And so we went back I say we, Chad and his department went back 5 or 6 years and pulled any excess CDBG funding that was left over, and then presented the project to Community Development Block Grant people, and they signed off on this project. They were, from what I understand, were pretty excited about it, and so they allowed us to go back those several years and bring that money forward into this year. So we needed to get that into the budget.
Maybe just a comment on that. The CBD funds have a sunset on them if they're unused to certain years. So this money is money that we would have otherwise lost within the next year or two. If we didn't use it. So that's what we felt like it was wise to use that money. And so it doesn't take away from anything that otherwise we would have done. There was money that would just would have been lost. So.
Those are two things there, the down payment assistance program, and then funding for the Teen Resource Center. How much for each one?
So let me look at this other sheet and it'll show you more of the details. It's probably better to look at. Rather than just go, there's so few on here, rather than go in summary. So you had 6,000 that was program income from down payment assistance. So when people repay their down payment assistance, they sell their house before the time's up, then that money comes back in to the city, and then we can reallocate it back out in down payment assistance. And they actually make us reallocate the program income before we can do our current year grant money. And so that's just money that will be put right back into down payment assistance. I've seen a number of those so far this year. I think Morgan and Chad's department is processing those, as good as they come in. It may have slowed a little bit because there aren't as many people buying homes right this moment. Last year there was a ton of them. I think we spent the money pretty quick. So, and then the $396,000 is the Teen Resource Center funding.
So that took money from years prior up through this current year?
The $396,000, yeah. And I don't know that any of that is current year funding. We have our current year funding allocated based on our plan. That's all, kind of clawed back from prior years and accumulated into one amount to help support that project.
So this may piggyback on some things I've asked a few meetings ago. Was that money available for assistance, down payment assistance and other types of projects? We just didn't allocate it to anything. It was earmarked for CDBG, but we had not applied it to any other projects, and that's why it was just there, and we were going to use it.
I think there's maybe some projects that just don't materialize in certain years, and so it does get left. I'm trying to think of some of that.
So we have to allocate the funding each year. So all that funding had been allocated to projects, but as Tracy said, some of those projects just didn't materialize. They just didn't go forward. For a while, we were putting CDBG funding towards some of our downtown renewal efforts. Some of those things just didn't materialize. So that money had been allocated, and then we're just reallocating it to this project.
They come forward with community development comes forward with a plan every year that they present to the council, and it allocates all the proposed funding to different areas.
Yeah, that just answered it. It was allocated, but those projects didn't come to fruition, so it was available.
Right.
Thanks.
Is this the first funding we've seen so far for this Teen Resource Center?
That I'm aware of, yeah.
It's been requested of us,
He is
we've contributed. Yeah.
And the overall plan for that? Is it Davis County School District, us?
The Davis Education Foundation and some philanthropic folks that are contributing
We don't
is what's going to bring this all
anticipate any
to
other
fruition.
request for funding in this.
No,
If that's
I don't believe so.
question.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's just, we haven't had a meeting to talk about the resource center. That I've been part of.
Well, have they submitted the plans yet? Because I know that they've been reviewing it. They kind of went back to the drawing boards a couple of times.
No plans have been submitted. This funding was allocated by the council in the previous meeting.
Yeah, we allocated it back roughly 6 months ago.
We did.
at that time, we were talking 320, if I remember right.
Well, I understand that, I just.
You don't have a plan to
Yeah,
now.
the plan is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that-
$400,000.
I think it comes back to something Clint or Councilor Morrison had talked about, mostly that we want to make sure we're not doing the school district's job for them. In terms of funding.
Right.
So,
So our portion really was towards the purchase of the property. It's not for any of their, for the building or construction or ongoing. It was more about helping with the purchase of the land because they had a significant donor, but there was that gap there. And they needed to secure it before they could really determine it, the planning going forward.
Who will own the property?
Town.
The school district or?
The district, yeah.
Who will own it?
Yeah.
Bolton School District.
It's called, what's that thing called?
sorry,
Yeah.
where you were at.
Yeah.
So have you guys got an issue with that then? I mean, because if so, I thought,
No, I mean, I think we just, wanting to make sure we all get our tax notice. We all see how much the school district takes. We see they ask for more in the bond that was just passed. And so sometimes it feels to me like they leave a little bit much on the cities to somehow come up with funding that they are well able to take care of, my estimation. Maybe that's just me being defensive of city funds. But Clint and I talked about that, just making sure that we're not being a piggy bank for them. That's all. So it wasn't necessarily specific to this, it was just more of an idea of where I feel that sometimes they should put a little bit more effort.
Okay. And if we're questioned about this, which we should be from residents, what's the plan? What do you say? What are we doing? Where's the information? That's,
okay, that's fair. I mean, we can put that together. Obviously, the biggest plan here is just helping, this is more of the foundation, not the project itself. So the foundation is a separate entity, obviously, and they function all on donations. They're not subsidized by the, well, they might be a little bit by the district, but primarily they function separately. And that's really what this is about. So it's more of us being, I guess, stepping up to help fulfill a need that's out there, which I know you guys are well aware of that. We discussed that. Visited and support the idea of, you know, you need something for a teen center. But I understand what you're saying as far as the money.
It's like we go to we don't need the credit, but we go to like the open house for the Northridge one, and like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like there's like,
They're acknowledging this.
thank you, Layton City
Yeah.
taxpayer, the old lady who doesn't have any kids, you know, for funding this teen center. The school district's now owning and running. It just, that's all it is.
I think maybe to help with this particular issue, these are constrained funds. These have to be used toward low to moderate income individuals, you know, services that would serve those types of individuals. So this is not city tax money. This is a community development block grant that's given out. There's a certain allocation every year that's given to the city. It's federal funding that comes through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So this was a qualifying project based on the clientele that serve these homeless individuals, other people that are seeking housing. Those are folks that are assumed to be qualifying individuals because they have very little to no income. So this was a project that qualified underneath those guidelines. It wasn't pulling things from other resources. These were already, as Bettina had asked, these were already allocated funds. We can't go back and allocate them to other social services users because they have to be used towards brick and mortar or land purchase type projects. So very similar to a have a heart type of a situation. This is a land purchase that facilitates a program for low to moderate income individuals. So it's a little bit different than taking a city pool and using that money toward that.
well, that makes sense. It's just,
Well, and I think I said previously that using funding that's specific to low and moderate income in Layton City is a good thing. So So it's not the project itself. I mean, that's one of the things I had issues with paying for the reimbursement for the trailer parks, is that they were going somewhere else, but these kids live in Layton. So obviously we have an interest in making sure that low and moderate income kids are able to have a place to go. So I appreciate that explanation, Chad, because it's.
I just wish we had something concrete to show versus a.
Yeah, what's gonna happen.
Because I remember we did when you did the CBGG, Morgan, but we haven't had anything since, as far as, here it is, here are the, we had a fire station. Remember the open house and the fire station and all the information that was provided? This is going to be part of the community. We ought to let the community know what we are partnering.
What their funds,
But-
they may not be their taxpayer
Yeah,
money,
but
but it's
it's
their funds.
because of us and because of the people who live here, we do get that. It just seems like we're funding something that we don't know exactly what it's going to be.
Well, I hear what you're saying,
Just-
and obviously that definitely paints the story of how well our staff is and how they function, and really kind of give us all the details. Now we're dealing with an outside entity, it's different, but I don't have a problem picking up the phone tomorrow and delivering that message and letting them know, but honestly, the plans haven't come through yet, so we really don't have anything to look at. We just know what the concept is and the benefits of it and why it's needed. So, yeah.
Is it typical to have that amount of money that potentially we could lose? It's for projects that are not. I mean, is there? I can maybe a better question is there a fail-safe, or this project that we funded back 2 years ago with CDBG funds isn't actually going through, so we need to find a backup plan, because this is great, we found all this money, but I just wonder if is there other funding sources like CDBG that we've allowed money to expire, because it seems like a pretty good chunk of change.
Typically, we try not to let anybody expire. We try to find a way to put it to use. So I think, as Chad said, but this was kind of cobbled together from several years. Small amounts here, small amounts there. And they, as we said, they didn't, that I'm aware of, the district never made any kind of a general approach to us for funds. It was all in the context of, do you have any, because they know the CBG process and the grant process, if there are funds that may qualify for low and light income. So they never asked us for any kind of a general fund that I'm aware of. Donation outside of money that was already earmarked for that. But yeah, we try not to lose any of this money if we can put it to a legitimate use.
One typical use that you'll see often is as we find lots that are available for Have a Heart and some of these other data school districts, these are funds that most of the time come from these funds that weren't spent for other reasons. In other words, it's funds that were allocated towards downtown re-improvement. For whatever reason, those projects don't materialize. We then say, hey, we've got an opportunity for a lot here that we can purchase with these funds that can be used for low to moderate income housing. And those funds are reallocated. We do that routinely. The parcel that just was built and we had the key ceremony for yesterday was that. That was almost to expire funds that we were able to reallocate and then spend on that lot, which is a great cause. So we try to keep our eyes open for those types of and it's harder now. The lots are getting more and more expensive, but if we can find those opportunities and reallocate that funding, then that makes sure that what you're saying, we're doing that fail-safe to make sure that those funds don't expire before we send.
And our role is really just to initially give a thumbs up to CDBG funding ideas that you want to fund, but it doesn't have to come back to us to decide that you're going to put more money and Have a Heart.
It does come back to you. Yeah, we routinely bring those back to you as
So
budget amendments.
those are just the typical budget amendments that we see, but now we kind of know why they come back. That's me speaking.
So we only have a couple of minutes, and I got the other meeting at 6:30. On this 2700 West project, the total increase for the streets portion, $2,250,000. The quick explanation of that is there were a number of remnant parcels, increased appraisals, and so forth for land related to that project. Some of that money will be coming back to us when those remnant parcels and different things are sold, once the project is completed and everything, all the dust settles, if we can say it that way. But we need the money up front to be able to complete the road, complete the project, and along with that, you've got street lighting, stormwater, and sewer that are related to that. The other thing that needed to be in the budget is related to the secondary water metering project, the $7,140,000. For now, we need to budget that as if we were going to use our fund balance to pay for that until the bonding and loan go through. And just within the last week or so, we were also made aware of additional grant funding that we're going to apply for. And so we extended when we were going to do the bonding. We were going to do that first part of December. Now it'll more likely be February, because we'll hear about this additional grant funding and we'll know if we need to take the full amount of the bond, if we want to do any bonding. It just depends on how much that grant funding is. Anyway, are there any other questions related to any of these amendments?
We don't have to come back because the bonding says we can do up to this, so we don't have to come back and do that.
Right. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Pretty on time, actually. As far as my report, I can hold off on that. I've got to make sure we're out there and starting on time, so I'd say this meeting's pretty much adjourned. And we'll take care of everything else out of